Hey guys, what's going on? Forlorn here, and today, well, I want to talk a bit about Splat Zones, the ranked game mode in Splatoon, and just giving some general tips of my own. Now, this isn't the end-all be-all way to play the game type, this is just how I personally play it, and if you have your own way of playing that works way better, go ahead. This is just kind of my playstyle based off the weapons I use. I don't really use rollers, I use the more longer range, what are they called, splatters, the rifle type things. Either way, that's how I have kind of developed my playstyle, and it's how I play, so... Like I said, if you're doing great with your own playstyle, then go ahead and do it. Don't stop just because I've said a few random words over the internet. So either way, first thing I want to say though is staying alive. I would prioritize staying alive over getting actual splats, kills, whatever you want to call them most of the time. Because when you die, you're on respawn, right? It means your team is basically outnumbered for a little few seconds as you have to, respawn at the base and jump in or swim back. So, constantly having bad engagements or trades and putting your team in outnumbered situations generally causes the chain reaction of your team just kind of dying and getting wiped. So, you want to constantly, while you want to be getting these kills and keeping control of the map, you don't want to kind of have your team just get wiped or put into bad spots because you've pushed up into a bad situation. Obviously, you're going to have to put yourself at risk. That's just how the game goes. You're fighting over these spots here. You can't just kind of hide in the corner and expect to get anything done. But you generally want to try and make a conscious effort to stay alive as much as you want to, control the points and all that or get the kills. And the other thing, though, this kind of tangents or kind of continues off into is what I'm doing here. You see, when I notice that, you see at the top, it shows how many of your team, the enemy or your team are dead. And when you notice there's a lot of them dead, or 3 to 4, you want to kind of push up a bit towards their spawn, like I did. And we're just kind of, at this point, making sure that there's no safe place for them to jump in, right? Until here where I get actually destroyed, now they can jump into that spot, right? But if I had gotten that guy, I would have easily just camped that guy's jump. And then, well, now they're back to square one, all respawning, nowhere for them to go. So, well, you don't want to go too far and kind of leave yourself isolated. You definitely want to keep them kind of near their spawn, prevent them from getting a good foothold towards the zones, so that's at least how I like to play that. I mean, if you're using a roller, it's kind of hard because they'll pick you off with longer range weapons. Rollers, you generally want to stay on the points, somewhere around there, and not so much worry about actually getting the kills until people are in the points themselves. Now here, see, this guy jumps in, not a very safe spot. This doesn't work out too well. This roller tries to kill me once again. It's very hard to use rollers. I've said it in my live videos, but it's very hard to use rollers in ranked. And if you use a roller, you should probably... I mean, there's great rollers. I've seen great players who use rollers. It's just a lot of rollers don't really have the good idea of where they want to be. I mean, it sucks. Like, I don't use rollers too much because of that. Using a roller is very difficult. Like, it's not that the players are doing anything wrong or are bad players or anything. It's just it's hard to use a roller in ranked. It's just how it is. Because people with long... Especially if the team has a good setup, like they wipe your team, they have a good position, like especially on this map with what's it called, the tower in the middle and all the height advantages, they will just kill you if you're a roller, like swimming in. You kind of have to stay behind your team. And that's another thing that this will once again kind of transition into, sticking with your team, because dying constantly off alone is actually one of the worst things you can do, especially if you're behind, because if you're behind, let's say your team just got wiped, you're respawning, and then one or two of your teammates run into them, and they are all 4 of them just waiting there, in their spots. Just kind of sitting there waiting for you to run in. They have ink everywhere, so you can't really move anywhere. So, going in 1 or 2 of you at a time isn't going to get anything done, and it just snowballs out of control for the other team. So, you really want to kind of, if you're noticing, keep track of your teammates at all times. Not really, I guess not all times, but every time you have a little lull in the action or a second to just kind of do whatever you want, just look at the top or look at the mini map on your gamepad just to see where everyone is, because you want to stick with your team. Because if you outnumber them in a situation, right, let's say you're fighting them and you're in a 1v1, right, it's a pretty straight up 1v1, but 1v1s don't happen that much in this game, especially because everyone's constantly around the zone. So you're constantly in these like 2v1 or 3v2 situations, and if you can position yourself well to where like you're shooting someone from 2 sides as they come in, well, if they're just coming in individually, or 1 or 2 of them, they're not going to get anywhere. I want to really push in as a team. In response to the whole team thing, make sure, like I said, transitioning back to the first thing I've talked about, I can't stress this enough. Do not jump to someone who's in a bad spot, because that is the worst idea. You jump in and then you die, and then you're on respawn again. It's just like every time you die, you've basically given your team a disadvantage in terms of numbers for a sec. And if you notice your team is just getting wiped, like it's suddenly a 4v2, like your team's just getting splatted all over the place, just kind of sit back a bit. There's no point to try to fight 2 or 3 of them at once. Now here, look, they're jumping into the point and they just die. Don't do that. Biggest thing I can push of anything, if anything I say ever gets to anyone, don't do that. Please don't do that. It's not even really like a playstyle thing like I was talking about, but it's just a bad idea. Just a general bad idea. And one final thing, it's not really a straight up tip, but know what your kit is good for, like what your weapons are. Now, I have a more longer range weapon. It doesn't actually do as much damage. So knowing this, I can't really go into the zones and duel people constantly. I do stuff like this, where I just kind of pick them off from the sides or behind her as they jump in, because my damage is very low. It's like 4 shots to hit someone or splat someone. So you generally just want to kind of know what you have available to you, because I have like an ink strike as well, and that little wall. The wall is great though for fighting people 1v1, I will say. And also, if you especially use something like an ink strike or any sort of kraken, try to save them for good times. You don't want to use them just immediately or use them out in the open, especially ink strikes. I've seen people just ink strike with people shooting at them and they instantly die, and it just doesn't really get much done. So either way, like I said, just my own personal tips, and there are exceptions. Like, for example, if they have a 60-point run, you can go die for the point and put them at that plus 60 buffer or something. There's exceptions to everything I've said, so either way, just some general tips I can give out. Thanks for watching. If you agree, if you don't, oh well. Oh, what can I say? I just hope that, you guys pulled something out of this video that you can at least say, hey, that's a good idea. Oh well. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you all later.